This question is for TSM and Doublelift. So you guys have been going through the NALCS, you've been winning titles, and then you go to Worlds pretty regularly now. And I'm wondering how you sort of keep motivation when you have these very long-term efforts to achieve that international success that don't always work out. How do you keep motivation and sort of avoid burning out?
It's always been pretty easy for me because of my love for the game. I think I really enjoy the game. I like figuring out what's good, what's good in the mid-lane meta, what's good for my team, and how we should play. And there's always things to improve on. So throughout the split, I hardly ever feel like we're the best team by far, that no one else can touch us or no one else can beat us. And until we reach that point, it's really easy to stay hungry and keep wanting to improve because I don't feel like we are the supreme best team.
I think that actually is an issue. Like last year, for example, after we won NA, I thought that was like such a cool thing, and we won against C9, who was also a really strong team in the finals, and to be able to win with TSM after the previous split losing to CLG in the finals was like a really big deal to me. I think for now, it's not a big deal to any of us to win anymore. It's like, it's almost expected. We just came to pick up the trophy, so we're all thinking about Worlds, but maybe last year, at least for me personally, I didn't have as much of a love for the game as I do now, where it's like, it's fun for me to play solo queue, it's fun to scrim, and I actually really just enjoy playing and competing. So yeah, it'll be a big difference this year.
This on? Yeah, cool. This is for Hanser. Beginning of the split, everybody was talking about how do you feel about playing against Flame and Sunday with all the influx of Korean talent. Considering how this season went for you, what do you think in retrospect of the incoming talent that came into the top lane?
When I first joined NA in Spring Split, I felt like they were pretty lackluster, and they weren't playing to what was expected of them. Everyone thinks Korean tops are really good, but Spring Split, they didn't, I guess, find their groove. And I was also able to get a lot more resources back in spring. And now in summer, as Doublelift's back, we're spreading it out more. And I'd say they definitely improved as individuals. Someday Flame have definitely gotten a lot better, and they're not as bad as they were in spring, but in terms of top lane talent, I still count them as some of the best.
For Biofrost, you had a ton of critics this split. You had people saying you're B tier, right? You had Ole being #1, you had Smoothie as #2, and then come this finals, you're outperforming the All-Star NALCS support in Ole. You're doing really well, and you even got your team the trophy in Game 4. You had some amazing engages, and you were just outperforming everyone on the stage for a large part. How does it feel to do so on such an important match for TSM this split?
I'm just happy that we won the game because early game I didn't do too well, and I needed to make up for it somehow. So Rakan, his primary benefit, I guess, is his engage, and I practiced really hard on his engage for the past couple of weeks, and I knew that I could do it. So I think Ole is a really good player. He's played well all split long, and his roams, I think, are the best defining thing about him. He always roams at good times where it really messes up the enemy mid laner, and yeah, he's just really good, so he deserves the recognition that he got, and yeah, they just played well overall.
But Vincent's the best. That's what he's trying to say.
Hi, Travis Gafford here for Travis Gafford. Doublelift, during the teaser or one of the promos, you mentioned something about how you respect Cloud9 and CLG, and you kind of want to keep IMT out of the Winners Club, and you like that it's just the 3 of those teams. How long do you think it'll take before another team can enter that Winners Club?
It was pretty close this split. I think Dig and IMT actually had a real shot at winning, but after this, I don't know. It's pretty devastating for both of them this split. I think it's going to be a while. I like the Winners Club because it's 3, and I've won 3 championships, and this is the 3rd TSM championship in a row. 3 is a good number. I like 3.
Hi, I'm Chesley Lechugo with BuzzFeed. This is for Sven Garen. How did you prepare knowing you were going against Smithy today?
I mean, I didn't really prepare anything special because we already knew a lot of their strategies and how aggressive they are in the early game. I just know from the scrims that they usually prioritize a lot of the early wards to get on the red and then try to invade at level 3. So knowing that, we just try to counter it by like stacking and making sure they don't get the ward for free, which they usually always got in our scrims. So yeah, we just knew that, and I think with the meta in the jungle right now, it's not really up to the 1v1 kind of. So just lucky that I'm on the better team. So even if he was a better player, it didn't really matter the series just because of how the meta is.
Hello, I'm Mike Brady with the Game House, and our question's for Sven. Every year, it's always attributed that you get a playoff buff. Where do you think that really comes from?
I don't think I played that well this playoff, so maybe it's just a false thing. I think just usually being better in the playoffs is because we have more time to prepare for one specific opponent. So we can really go into all the scrims and just like always be super harsh on yourself, because when you do something that worked against the opponent, you can always see like, okay, this actually wouldn't work against X team you meet in the playoffs. So I think it's just a lot easier to be very hard on yourself and just you go into every scrim with like more focus and goal.
Hi, Aaron McCunis with .esports. My question's for Bjergsen. In Game 3, you guys were down about 5,000 gold, and that one Orianna ult set your team on track to potentially come back. You guys were still down quite a bit after that fight. How do you keep your cool, knowing that as long as you guys keep on that same track, you could potentially win the game?
I don't really think it's difficult to keep my cool if we're behind, because I think we're all just focusing on how we can win and what we can do next. No one spends time thinking about, oh my god, we're losing, oh my god, this is going so badly. We're all just focused on the next thing, what our comp can do, what our win condition is, and we were constantly talking about once we reach certain items or my flash is up, because their comp is largely based on trying to kill me with like the Jarvan Shen combo, and that worked for them in the early game. But then once we reached the point where we were confident that we were going to win, we just took as many fights as possible. But for staying cool, I think it's easy for all of us. We've been on stage many times, all of us played in the finals. We've been behind many games, and just another day of the job, I guess.
Gabriel Zoltan Johan of the Score Esports. This question is for Doublelift. You went on hiatus over the course of Spring Split. You come back at the end of this split, you're champion. What do you feel is the difference between the state of 80 carries in the LCS when you left to how it is now? Have they improved at all? You still are standing at the top. Have you felt that you've improved even more than they have? What's the state of 80 carries in the LCS as it stands?
Well, when I stopped playing, Jhin was really OP, and I don't know why. I think I have a mental block or something on Jhin, but we just never win our Jhin games. Like at Worlds last year, and every time I play Jhin, something really bad happens. But then when I came back, they nerfed lethality, so like Jhin and Varus weren't as prevalent, and it came back to auto-teching 80 carries like Caitlyn and Ashe, and now it's a lot of like Tristana, Kalista, and Xayah. So I think I have a better knack for those type of champions personally. And in the break, I was just playing like whatever in solo queue and just trying to climb the ladder. But then when I come back to competitive, I need to like play my champion to provide value to my team, like whether it's in team fighting or it'll provide CC or it'll have early pressure in lane. Like I need to provide some value to my teammates, and part of that is just being really proficient on certain champions, like the ones that are really meta or the ones that I believe and my team believe is OP. So yeah, it's been really fun. I guess it's a lot of 80 carries are viable right now, and it's really fun.
This question is for Hanser. This split, we saw there was it was very difficult for individual TSM players to sort of get ranked highly. TSM was considered the strongest team as a unit, but individual players didn't necessarily stand out. I'm wondering how you felt about that. Was that part of the discourse you engaged in at all, or was it frustrating to sort of lack that level of recognition?
Well, coming into the split, we kind of had to find our groove again because we're playing with Peter again, and it's kind of like a fresh start for us as a team. We have to learn the meta, like reintroduce like basic fundamentals that we have to learn all over again, and so it wasn't really focused on our individual play, and we were more focused on learning as a team, getting better as a team. We realized after the loss at MSI that that's what's really important. It's not about individual play. Like you can sack one side of the map and then like get a lead on the other side, but then in the end it doesn't really help you get ahead in game. So we're more focused on team play now and less individual stuff, and I think that's what makes us a really strong team.
Hi, I'm Julia Lee from the Rift Herald, and my question is for Doublelift and Biofrost. Throughout this season, you see a lot of great bot lane duos, and then you see a lot of great individual bot lane players. What do you think the difference is there between just like being a great duo together, because everyone thinks of Biolift or Doublefrost or whatever y'all are, and then there are teams where you're just like, oh yeah, individually they're very good, but it doesn't really come out on stage.
So your question is, what do I think the difference is between the good duos and just the good players? I think the good duos, I don't know, it's really weird, I've always been part of like really good duos, like me and Chester, and then me and Afro, and then me and Bio. We have always been like pretty good. I think part of it is just not being afraid to tell each other things that we don't like that the other person does, and also things that we do like, because if you're just constantly criticizing someone, or you're afraid to criticize them, I think that's a really big problem with the duo lane. So just always being on the same page. After a while, you kind of know, you get a feel for your lane partner when you're always telling them like, hey, we should try this, or I think this is good and I think this is bad. So just having like an open talk all the time. I think a lot of the time during the split we had a lot of problems, just because we weren't playing the right champions, or we were playing in the wrong way, or other bot lanes were out roaming us, or just outplaying us 2v2. So just always learning, always talking to each other is the most important thing. Even if you're a great player, if you can't communicate well, you're not going to be able to show it.
I can't get out of this by saying what he said, right? I think a lot of other bot lane duos, they have great mechanics, but it kind of just doesn't really extend out of that. I think a good example of a duo that might not have like the best mechanics but are really strong as a duo together are Altic and Adrian. They really know how to manipulate waves, and they're good at deciding whether or not to roam or to stay in lane, and they're really efficient with their back timers. So as a duo they work really well, but even though mechanically they might not be the best, like some AD carries like Piglet, he's really, really strong in lane, but even then Altic and Adrian work really well as a duo lane.
Albert for Esports Heaven here. So this is to Doublelift. Last year, you took down NA, and then you left for a split, and you came back. Is this the time that TSM goes to Worlds and actually makes it, past quarterfinals, makes some noise, and like lives up to the recognition that they've been getting, or is it, another TSM at Worlds meme?
Well, Dennis was talking about this a little bit after in the post-game interview at the desk, but we came in last Worlds pretty cocky. We thought that we were a top 4 team. We were like, yeah, we're going to win it, and then we were all super crushed when we started losing in the group stages, because it was like, whoa, like we weren't supposed to lose. I think coming into this one more humble and just being a lot, like we were hungry last time, but I think we just didn't have a great approach to practice, and yeah, our mentality was just wrong coming in. But I think coming into Worlds thinking like a winner, but also being humble at the same time is just so important, because every team is so good. You can lose the other game, like your pride can be wounded if you get solo killed, or if you're just making a lot of mistakes, because these players are also just equally as good as you. I think like we had a lot of problems last year, but then this year we're just going to be able to learn from that. And part of that is just being able to come back from bad situations when we make mistakes, which we didn't have that skill last year.
My question's for Biofrost. We're seeing a lot of other regions and a lot of other teams focus on Ardent supports, whereas today you and I seem to be going back and forth on the playmakers. Why do you think there's really that kind of disconnect?
I think in other regions they have different pick and bans where Recon isn't up, and Recon is a really essential part to draft where if he's up then you have to play around him because he's such a strong pick. If he's down and some other champions go down, then it goes to the Ardent sensor supports because they're the next best thing. And if you play safe in the early game with an Ardent sensor support, you're going to outscale a playmaker like Alistar, and it just depends on if your team can play around that and that spike. Because a lot of the other teams are playing like Lulu. I know in Korea they're playing Lulu into like Blitzcrank, and if Lulu survives early game, then she just outscales really hard with Ardent sensor, and it'll be really obnoxious for Blitzcrank to even make anything happen. So I think there's just a bit of a disparity in playstyles there, and it's also different because of the draft.
This question's for Bjergsen. What do you say to critics who are confused or disoriented by the fact that you won split MVP, even though you came second in the all LCS voting?
I think there was a different voting for MVP, which I didn't really even know. I mean, people have their favorite players or their players that they think perform better than me, and I think that's completely fair. Some players did outperform me in certain ways, but I think why I was recognized as the MVP is the value that I bring to my team, and hopefully my teammates feel the same way, but the value I bring that helps us win and helps us get onto this big stage and actually make a difference. But yeah, there are a lot of great individual players in the LCS, but like Peter said, if you can't communicate, if you can't lead your team, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to win.
This question's for Doublelift. You've, since the beginning, have been known for your trash talking, and so some regions have trash talk segments, we don't in NA. Is there any player that you wish you could kind of have like a back and forth trash talk segment?
Call him out. Call him out. I don't know, I think there's some players in NA who just kind of force it like Dardock because they came in with no fans and they just want to make a name for themselves. I don't know. I have bad luck when I talk trash because when I talk trash, I always lose, and I'm just superstitious, I guess now. I don't even care about what the fans say. I just don't want to lose. But yeah, overall, I think part of it is you get crucified so hard by the community when you talk trash and then your team loses. So I don't feel like I get any extra points when I talk trash and we discuss and we're already expecting to win. I think the most hype is if we talk trash at Worlds. I'm not saying that I will or that we won't, but if we talk trash at Worlds, it's like actually good teams with stuff on the line we're not expected to win, and that's more fun than just like beating up kids at the playground.
This question is for Spence Garen. For a while, TSM rotated junglers. You went through a few different picks before settling on that pick. Now you've been with TSM, really solidified your place on the team and part of the foundation of the team. I'm wondering if you feel like you've hit your ceiling in terms of developing with TSM. Like how much room for growth do you think you have, even though you've kind of settled in and there isn't that large-scale change anymore?
Yeah, so even though I've been with TSM for a long time, I think there's obviously still a lot of stuff I can improve on. Like, we already have 3 very vocal players in the team, like Kevin and Björk and Doublelift, but I think I can still improve on just being more assertive and just when I believe something is right, like calling it out more. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I can still improve on, even though I've been in the team for a long time.
This question is for Vincent. Vincent, so in the second half of the game, especially in the final game, you played really well. Now, over the past 6 weeks or so, you've had an intense war of words between you and LCS analyst Mark Zimmerman. And I was just kind of curious, do you feel like your performance today finally is to rest, any criticisms he's levied against you?
I'm not sure if Mark Z said this, but he was like wondering why their Dignitas was banning Rakan, because like he probably thought I just didn't play the champion because I have champion pull issues. And honestly, in the regular split, I did have some issues where we weren't playing the right champions, and we weren't playing the right champions basically. So I think in playoffs, of course, every player is going to have their limitations on champion pool. You can't just play every champion for every specific situation. So I think my champion that I practiced really hard on this playoffs was Khan, and yeah, I was able to play that today, and I think I played decently on it. Not like the best in the last game, but yeah, I also played Alistar, and Mark Z was also questioning why I wasn't picking it, because these were the playmakers that were constantly being played. And I ended up playing those champions, and for some of the other picks, of course, every support has their own thing. Like, Ole has Bard, and then Aframo, he plays a lot of Morgana, and yeah, everyone just has their specialty, so.
Albert for Esports Heaven here. This is to Bjergsen and Svetsgaren. What mid lane and jungle duos do you want to play against at Worlds?
Oh, that's a really tough question. I don't know where to start. What do you think, Dennis? Give myself some time to think.
Not really sure. I don't know. Just all the Korean teams, I guess. They're looking pretty good.
I think the game isn't as based around the 2v2 mid as it kind of used to be, so I don't really think of the mid jungle as a 2v2. It highly depends on what champions you're playing. If you end up playing stuff like LeBlanc, that becomes a lot more relevant how the jungle and mid interacts, but largely in some of the games, especially here in the final when we're just playing stuff like Corki, it's really more about getting the right vision and kind of playing with your team. So it's going to depend a lot on the meta at Worlds, whether the 2v2 specifically between jungle and mid is even important at all.
Connor Smith with Esports. My question is for Doublelift. So, leading up to the first MSG finals, there was a lot of hype surrounding the actual venue, like the Road to the Garden, and since then we've seen a lot of finals and competitions in some really big sports